Hello. Hello, friends. Only one member has joined. Bhaskar?
Sir, wait for 15 minutes at least. Maybe some other person will join.
I think it may be recording also, isn't it? Huh?
Hmm.
Okay, anyway, my dear friends, let us start because we cannot wait for them because we have to complete, and today is the last session for us, and there is a lot to be covered. Meanwhile, some of the students
You
will
can
also
start,
join.
sir.
Yeah, because we can't wait for that. Anyway, it is recording,
Hmm.
My
That's
dear
all.
friends,
You can start.
yes, thank you. Yesterday, I think there was a discussion. Yesterday, you were also present, Mr. Bhaskar.
I was there.
Yeah, very nice. Yesterday, I think we discussed the qualitative data analysis techniques, isn't it? How to analyze the qualitative data that we have discussed. And before that, and there was also techniques of multivariate analysis, which we discussed in the last class, techniques of multivariate analysis, and also how to analyze the qualitative data. In other words, techniques of qualitative analysis. That was the topic yesterday we covered, isn't it? Asmin has come. Well, friends, today let us try to understand the various issues related to the ethical principles, ethics in psychology research. So if you're taking up a research in psychology, then what are the ethics? Ethics means the rules, code of conduct. Code of conduct are the rules that we're going to discuss today. So ethics means the rules for conducting any research, which are to be followed very seriously by the researchers. And what are those rules and code of conduct that we try to discuss today? Then social researchers work within a variety of economic, cultural, legal, and political settings, each of which influences the emphasis and focus of their research. And again, the aim of conducting research, I think something should be done to the society. Then the aim of the guidelines, already the guidelines are prepared for this ethics purposes of conducting research to enable the social researchers individual ethical judgments. I still believe that your psychology will come under behavioral sciences, not social sciences, I believe. Behavioral sciences, mostly we talk about the behavior. Behavior of the people means that's the society. So mostly it is behavioral sciences, but anyway, this is also branded as social sciences. It is branded in the social sciences subjects as well as the behavioral sciences. Psychology is always the study of the behavior of the human beings, or it may be the behavior of animals too. So therefore, ethical judgments and decisions to be informed by shared values of and experience than to be imposed by the profession. So therefore, one has to follow very strictly the guidelines which are meant for conducting the research in psychology, because the research can be conducted on human beings, the research can be conducted on animals too. You are not supposed to hurt the feelings of the human beings, or nor you're supposed to hurt or harm the animals. And you might have seen some of the experiments where the animals are used, the cats, the dogs, the pigeons, the chimpanzees, and etc. and etc. So while doing or conducting experiments on the animals, you are not supposed to, because there is the Animal Act, Animal Protection Act is also there. And moreover, if you are doing that kind of experiment, you are supposed to inform. Otherwise, strict action will be taken on those people who are using these animals for their researches. So therefore, you have to follow the guidelines, all the rules for conducting the research in the psychology. Similarly, with the human beings, you do not have any right to disturb the human beings. And you are not supposed to conduct any research without their notice also, if you are doing any research on them. And you are not supposed to deceive them also. You are not supposed to give any wrong information or false information to the human beings on which you are trying to conduct research. So therefore, such kind of rules are already brought in for following by the researchers in psychology. So one, ethics related to society. The first rule is ethics related to society. Because we're all doing this kind of researches for the betterment of the society and the human beings. And then there will be certain legislations which are meant for protecting the people, their rights. If the rights are violated, then they will go to the extent of making complaint in the Human Rights Commission also. Therefore, my dear friends, without their notice, without their, without pursuing them, or the persuasion kind of thing, or without their knowledge, you are not supposed to conduct any kind of research. That's the reason why you do not have any right to violate the rights that are given to the human beings. Without their notice, you are not supposed to collect data or conduct any kind of research on them. Such legislation may lead to diluted research activity as a consequence of the fear of litigation. Yes, all these litigations will also at times dilute the whole process, because you are constrained, you are not crossing. Suppose if you want to collect the data completely with the human beings from different angles, your legislations will also stand as some obstacles, because you have to limit yourself to the extent that you have to collect the data. Beyond that, you are not supposed to go into the details of the human beings. By that way, if you're not going into the details of human beings for understanding their behavior, I think that is not complete research. So at times these legislations will also dilute, because of the various litigations may be there. Some fellows who are not interested, who may be working against you, they will also go to the court of law against you. So that kind of fear will also stand as an obstacle for getting the full picture of your research. But finally, you are addressing the society and you are conducting the research in the society with the human beings, and ensure your research will be useful to them. So such ethical conflicts are inevitable. Above all, however, researchers should not automatically assume that their priorities are shared by society in general. They should not automatically assume that their priorities are shared by society in general. So therefore, all these legislations will also stand as some kind of speed breakers which can stop you going beyond. So that is one of the obstacles that we are able to see. We can say obstacle, but there are certain limitations which will protect the rights of the humans. For that purpose only all the legislations have come into existence. And then within those legislations only how to conduct the research. And for that purpose, you are not supposed to violate the rights which are given by the Constitution to the human beings. So you can also widen the scope of research provided. If you do not get the complete picture of the research, you can also extend it further. The boundaries of your research can also be extended. Social researchers develop and use concepts and techniques for the collection, analysis, and interpretation of the data. Although they are not always in a position to determine their work or the way in which their data are ultimately disseminated and used, they are frequently able to influence these matters. So if you are not able to get the data, what is required for analysis purposes and for interpretation purposes, you can also widen the scope of your social research. So widening your research, that means you may also add some more variables or your population. You may also go still further the sample that you just decided in the beginning. Still further, you can stretch it. So more population may also be considered if you do not get the proper data. So that by that way, the population, that means more number of candidates will be coming into the picture, for example. That way you're widening your research. Similarly, the area can also be widened. In your area, if you're not able to get the proper results, the boundaries of the area, the scope of your area can also be extended further. You can also stretch it further so that you can get the data that is required by you for the purpose of analysis. So in those cases, you can also take permission from those people concerned with this research who have given this kind of assignment to you, that you can also put a word to them that I have to extend the or widen the scope of my research, otherwise I cannot analyze the data. Therefore, I may be permitted or allowed to cross the scope which is already fixed in order to get the valid data. Such kind of information is to be given to the authorities who have really funded your research. There are agencies which will fund the research also, or otherwise department will also fund you, or department will ask you to take up the research, and all the cost will be borne by the department. So there would be superiors over you, and if the permission is required, then you are supposed to contact them for getting permission to stretch your research. Then considering the conflict interests, when you talk about the human beings, then certainly there would be conflict interest. Interests may not be the same. Social inquiry is predicated on the belief that greater access to well-grounded information will serve rather than threaten the interests of society. Threaten the interests of society. So society interests should not be threatened. So you have the access to well-grounded information. So in order to get the information from the ground picture, the social inquiry is predicted on the belief that greater access, you just believe the greater access to well-grounded information will serve rather than threaten the interest of society. So society interests should not be threatened. Nonetheless, in planning all phases of an inquiry, from design to presentation of findings, social researchers should consider the likely consequences for society at large, groups and categories of persons within it, respondents or other subjects, and possible future research. You have to consider all these factors when you are trying to conduct the research in a particular society, because there are conflicting interests would be there, and your research should not threaten the society. So then with all these things, then you have to conduct the research, because the consequences, you have to consider what would be the consequences from the society at large, how the society reacts if you are conducting research which is related to them. You may be talking about the superstitions, you may be talking their traditions, you may be talking their lifestyle, you may be talking their culture. Within that you find so many groups, and one group may be interested, the other group may not be interested. Some will also cooperate, some will not cooperate, and all these consequences you have to keep in mind. All these things will happen. They won't cooperate at times. They don't find time at all. They do not know value of the research, why the research is conducted. They think that you are doing for getting some money from the government. Then why should I cooperate for your research? These are the various questions that will come across to a researcher who is conducting research in a society which is having vested interests. So the fact that there is no generic formula or guidelines exist for assessing the likely benefit or risk of various types of social inquiry. There is no generic formula or guidelines exist for assessing the likely benefit or risk of various types of social inquiry. So it may be useful to them, it may not be useful to them, but you have to inform them how this particular research will benefit them. So I think there is no certain saying that this is the formula or something else which will exist for assessing the likely benefits or risk of various types of social inquiries by making inquiries. Inquiry is also part of your social research. So therefore, how this will benefit the society, for that purpose, there is no formula as such to tell them you will benefit like this, like this, like this. Out of this research, you will benefit. There is no such a formula at all, which is generated, isn't it? So therefore, with all these vested interest and conflict interest, you have to conduct your research. Then you require a lot of patience, and also how you mingle or mix with the society itself. That will tell you the fate of your research. So I think there would also be many obstacles that you would be facing from the society when you are trying to conduct the research. So therefore, there are conflicting interests, and then you have to resolve all those conflicting interests. Even then, there would be people who will not cooperate also. I've seen so many such instances where a particular group is cooperating. There would be many groups in a society based on different issues. It may be politically, or it may be caste-wise, or it may be some kind of equation-wise. There are many groups. One group cooperates, the other group will not cooperate. In those circumstances, you are supposed to use your wisdom, intellect, how best that you can collect the data from these groups. Otherwise, it cannot be a random sample also, isn't it? Unless you cover all the groups of that. So I think it requires a lot of wisdom on the part of the researcher. So this is one of the rules that you have to keep in mind. There would be conflict of interest in the society. Then you have to follow the objectivity. Again, when you talk about objectivity, complete objectivity with regard to social sciences may not be possible. 100% objectivity is not possible in social sciences. Social sciences means when you are contemplating that your research is on human beings, when the human beings themselves are not perfect 100%, don't think that we are perfect. We have many errors. By birth itself, we got many errors. So therefore, your research is not completely 100% objective one. So therefore, research can never be entirely objective. And social science research is no exception at all, especially social sciences. There would be error. Complete objectivity may not be there with the social science researchers. Similar is the case with regard to your research in psychology also. So the selection of topics for attention may reflect a systematic bias in favor of certain cultural or personal values. The topic itself, a bias at times, cultural bias or personal values. You may be having your own values, and you may be balancing towards one particular group, and you may be favoring one particular group, some individuals. So therefore, there's a bias from your side, and there would also be a bias from the other side. That means favoring certain cultural or personal values. So if you are hailing from certain community, some culture, a particular culture, then you try to value it, and you may not value other cultures. So that kind of bias would also be there. So that's the reason why when there is a bias with regard to our personal values and cultural values, then you cannot expect 100% objectivity. What it is, what it purpose. Hello, friends. Am I clear? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ah, very nice. Today, Ushta Sri. Dr. Nageswara Saab, you are here. Dr. Nageswara Saab, are you here? No? Anyway, let us, because there was one question yesterday, he wanted to some clarification on that. Anyway, I thought of asking the yes. Next one is ethics related to funders and employers. So ethics related to society you have seen. There are certain rights, privileges to the human beings. You have to respect them. There will be conflict of interest of the human beings. Then within that you have to see, then you have to say that the social science research is not completely 100% objective. There may be personal bias, there may be cultural bias, favoritism would also be there. Your topic itself at times allows such kind of bias. So that's the reason we cannot say that your social science research is completely 100% bias free. So ethics related to funders, employees, and those people who are funding the researchers. There are funding agencies. ICSSR is a funding agency. U is a funding agency. Government is a funding agency. You have to make proposals, research proposals to those agencies. If they accept, they will also fund your research project. So when they are funding, you are responsible to them also. What is required by those agencies, you have to give such kind of results, such kind of, you have to conduct such kind of research only. What is required by those agencies? Because funding is given to them. What is expected by them out of your research, you have to satisfy them. Otherwise, your research work will not be accepted. With all the work that you have done 2 years or 3 years with the funding, your research work will not be accepted unless you satisfy the funding agencies. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind when the research project is funded by any agency. Keep in mind you have to satisfy them in all respects. With respect to the complete, you have to present the complete picture of your research proposal. Then there will be so much of discussion, so many questions from the ICSS or from the UCs. If they are satisfied with your research proposal, then only will be funded. Then accordingly, according to the views of those agencies, then only you have to conduct the research according to the views or the suggestions. What is required by them? Accordingly, you have to conduct your research. So you are responsible to the funding agencies. Obligations and roles. Clarifying obligations and roles. Social researchers should clarify in advance the respective obligations of employer or funders and social researchers. They should, for example, refer the employer funder to the relevant parts of a professional code to which they adhere. Reports of findings should specify their role where appropriate. So therefore, you have to satisfy the obligations of the funding agencies. So what they said, they will also ask you to change your sample. Your sample is very less. You have to increase your sample. And this is the area, you have to change the area also. On the base of their suggestions, you have to change the proposal, then only you will be funded. So like that, I think you have to follow the suggestions of the funding agencies. Then assessing alternatives impartially. Social researchers should consider the available methods and procedures for addressing a proposed inquiry and should provide the funder or employer with an impartial assessment of the respective merits and demerits of alternatives. So you have to say these are the merits of my proposal and these are the demerits of my proposal. And if you can fund it, I can do research to the best of my ability to satisfy you, to satisfy the funders or the agencies. So therefore, consider all available methods and procedures which are apt to your research. You can say that these are the research methods that I can employ. These are the variables that I can include for this. And this is the population that I'm going to fix. Like this, you have to present your proposal and then get to seek their permission. Then next one is guarding the privileged information. Guarding the privileged information. You have to protect the information. It's a privilege of protecting the information. Social researchers are frequently furnished with information by the funder or employer who may legitimately require it to be kept confidential. So you have to protect that information which is confidential. You're not supposed to leak out the information to the other people. You have to guard the information. The discussion or the interaction that would happen between you and the funding agency, that kind of content should be protected. That information is confidential. You are not supposed to leak out that confidential information. That should be between you and the funding agencies only. Okay, na? The relationships, yeah.
Sir, just
Relations.
camera. You just please ask them to adjust the camera, sir. You are not being seen completely.
Myself?
Yeah.
Which camera? Am I not visible? Yeah.
Only your forehead is visible.
Slightly.
Just
Yeah,
if you
slightly
tilt,
adjust.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Now it's okay.
Oh, that means the distance between the laptop and myself. Huh?
Yeah. That's it. And
Gopal,
just the angle you can adjust.
Krishnamurti.
Yes, sir.
Gopi Krishna,
GK.
yeah, my voice అర్థమైంది నాకు. So is
Yes,
it
sir.
okay now?
Yeah. Now it's okay, sir.
Because the distance, then I just adjusted so that I may be visible. Am I visible? It's okay?
Distance and just the angle also, if it is possible. You
Is it
can
okay?
just adjust.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So therefore, you are supposed to guard the information, that will protect the information. Whatever that is discussed or happened between you and the fundraisers, you are not supposed to leak out. It's completely the confidential. And then relationship with the employers or funders involve mutual responsibilities. They have the responsibility also to release the amounts as per the, of course, the work that is done by you. The total amount will not be released at a time. On the base of the progress of research only, the funding will be done by the agencies, and some portion of the amount will be kept to the last. If that is satisfied, your research work is satisfied, then only the last payment will be made. So quite often, the progress has to be informed to the funders. The progress of your research, the stage of your research, and your research proposal should also contain monthly wise progress. By this month, I would be presenting this much work. So like this, I think you have to give that kind of stages of the progress at a different stages of your research. So that way, I think you are guarding the privileged information which will not be given to anybody, that is completely confidential, that is between you and the funding agencies. Then ethics related to colleagues. Yes, you are conducting a research in a department where you find your supervisors, your subordinates, the clerks and typists. You have to be very careful about these people. Suppose once the research is given, you are doing this research, they are supposed to be very confident, maintain confidence. They are not supposed to give this information to anybody. And you know pretty well what is happening. With regard to earlier, the questions paper were leaked out in Telangana government, you know. It was done by some typists also, or some computer wallas. Okay, no? That has happened in the group of services, you know. So such kind of, you know, things will also be done. Therefore, ethics are also be there for even the colleagues. So all those colleagues should be informed about this. Nothing should be given to anybody. This is between us only. This information or the research should not be leaked out. The information should not be given to anybody. That should be within us. So nobody is to take it as granted that information should be given to everybody. No. So that way, I think you are supposed to communicate the ethical principles to your colleagues. Ethical principles to your colleagues.
But there is a possibility of misutilization of the data. What has to be kept discreet.
If anybody misuses, they will be taken as per the law.
But the head of the
And again, there is a
researcher
danger to their job also.
but head of the researcher will be held responsible.
Not only head
Because
of the research, the head of the researcher just escapes. He just escapes. Petrol, what is happening? All the political leaders will escape, but finally, the secretary is responsible,
Yeah.
That will also happen here. Okay, na? The typist, you might have seen all those things, all those fellows who are involved in that kind of scam, question paper leakage scam. Their jobs, they lost it. They were suspended, dismissed also. Isn't it? So such kind of things means
Yes.
all the ethical principles, how to protect the data. Nothing should be given out to anybody. So that kind of communication should be there with all the individuals who are connected with this kind of research. If this research is done in a department, there would be hierarchy, isn't it? From top to bottom.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, I think there may be a possibility of danger of using this particular information, as you said, like misusing the information also. So one must be very careful. If anybody does this kind of thing, then they will be losing their jobs. It will cost their job. Okay, na? And
Yes.
moreover,
Yes.
they are responsible. Even information related to human beings, when you are collecting the data from them, you have to give clear cut guidelines, or you have to say the purpose of your research also. Then only you have to convince them. Otherwise, they will not cooperate. So therefore, even you are collecting the data from the human beings, you should also tell them the purpose of this data completely. You are not going to harm. This is for this purpose. This will not, doing any harm to you. Such a kind of, convincing kind of thing through by saying the purpose of this can also be done by the researcher. Then ensuring safety and minimizing risk of harm. So when the experiments is conducted, they ensure that there should not be harm at all, especially when you are conducting the research on animals. When they're chained in a particular room or a cage, at times they will also face such kind of problems. So animal law will also come into effect, isn't it? And especially human beings will also. Suppose if you want to beat them or something using such kind of abusive language, if they are not cooperative, all these things would also be there. So you're not supposed to harm or abuse the human beings, isn't it? And all these things will also happen at times. Ensure their safety and minimizing risk of harm. You are not supposed to harm them. So ethics are related to subjects. And again, my dear friends, whenever I talk of subjects, we can also call them as participants. We can also call them as the people who are participating in the experiment, in the research. So we can call them as participants. We can also call them as subjects. We can also call them as sample. Okay, na? So these are the various synonyms that normally we can use whenever you talk about the sample and then related issues. So therefore, with regard to these subjects, avoiding undue intrusion. Don't go into the personal issues of the subjects. Intrusion. So social researchers must strive to be aware of the intrusive potential of their work. They have no special entitlement to study all phenomena. The advancement of knowledge and the pursuit of information are not themselves sufficient justifications for overriding other social and cultural values. You must be very, very sensitive. There are certain sensitive issues which you are not supposed to touch. Sensitive issues which are not supposed to touch. So that's the reason why you must be very careful and don't override. And whatever your research, the boundaries are there, try to be in the boundaries and don't go completely into their personal lives and don't interfere in the matters of their personal life. And again, there would also be war between them and also between the subjects. It would be very difficult. You cannot again step into that area for data collection. Huh? Not only yourself, even if some other person who will coming for the research purpose, they will not allow, because you are not supposed to disturb their personal life. Sensitive issues you are not supposed to touch, which are not included in your research. Whatever that is included in your research, you should confine only to that particular frame of your research. Don't cross and then intrude. There should not be any intrusion of their personal lives. So that is avoiding undue intrusion. Then also obtaining informed consent. Yes, you have to take the consent of the people. Then only you can conduct. If they're okay, accept that we can cooperate. If say, or if they give such kind of consent in written form or in oral form, then only I think you are going to conduct the research. Then cooperation comes, coordination comes, then the data collection would be very easy. Then gather the information that you require from them. So therefore, you have to take the consent of the people
But
for conducting this research.
most of the data which is collected for one purpose, it is shared with the other research process also. So how this is, how from whom it is leaked and all also nobody knows. So in such case, what an individual should do?
Ensure all the doors are locked.
Once information is leaked out,
There should be some kind of security key should also be there. Your data can be locked.
but it is given to some research.
Some research. Who are going to
Yes.
give that research? Without the
Research.
notice of the funders, if you give your data to somebody, then the amount that is paid by you will be taken back, number one, and he will also be jailed.
But that is only for the lower subordinates. The main, the one who is main.
Whoever is there,
culprit,
madam, whoever is there, they are
they are
supposed
getting
to,
skipped.
whoever is there connected with this research, they are not supposed to misuse the data. They are not supposed to give this data to some other researchers also. If they copy this thing, if they copy, again, that will also come in the later pages. They should not copy also. Plagiarism would be there. Plagiarism is copying and then making it his own contribution. No. If your work is copied by me, and if I say that is my work, I will be punished also. You have to give the citations from this work is taken from, so Ushasri, this work is taken from Ushasri research work. I have to cite Ushasri 2024.
Yes,
All the details of your research have to be again specified. From that particular part only, this data is taken up. And you cannot own somebody's work. Anyway, therefore, my dear friends, modifications to informed consent at times, if you require any modifications in the consent, you can also get that kind of consent by discussing with the subjects. So as a consequence of database enhancements and the matching or fusion of data sets, the probabilities of disclosure of participants' identities has been increased in recent years so that it becomes harder to guarantee anonymity. The release of non-anonymous data, such as in sharing data between governmental agencies, when the identities of individuals could be discovered. So if any information is given to anonymous persons, that should not be done. If you want to modify, get modifications to informed consent, you can also permit it. So such kind of modifications to informed consent should also be taken if you want the data to be increased or participants number should be increased. Disclosure of participants, if it is to be disclosed, participants who are involved in that, you can also disclose. Respecting rights in observation studies. Observation studies where behavior patterns are observed without the subject's knowledge. Social researchers must take care not to infringe what may be referred to as the private space of an individual or group. Respecting rights in observation studies. Oh, you have to respect the rights. Without their knowledge, you are not supposed to observe or collect the data. Dealing with proximities, if there are people, especially the disabled persons, who are not able to come to that, and if such kind of cases, you can also collect the data from the very close friends. We can call them as proxies. Proxies utilized to answer questions on behalf of a subject. Say because access to the subject is uneconomic, or because the subject is too ill or too young to participate directly. When the subject is not able to participate directly, you can also get that information through the proxies who are very close to them. Am I right?
Yes, sir. But there is a possibility of modification of the detailed information what they are supposed to give.
Yeah, there may be possibility. Ensure that that will not happen to the maximum extent. After all, we are all human beings. You cannot control everything. And already it is said that 100% objectivity may not be there in social sciences. This is not physical sciences. Everything is completely controlled. Under controlled conditions, you are not conducting the experiment here. There may be so many intervening extraneous variables which will be disturbing your experiment also. Then if
because this is not exact science, it is behavioral science.
exactly, you are right. Actually, so your psychology will come under behavioral sciences, and
Exactly.
all the behavior may not be perfectly assessed. Some of the behavior may be inside, which will not come out, and some of the behavior which is observed may not be the same. He may be okay today, tomorrow his behavior may also be changed. There may be behavioral changes on the basis of the time, the context, and the researcher also. So therefore, 100% getting information from the subject, it may not be possible also. Then, if this data is to be again, secondary use of records can also be taken up. Secondary use of records, custodian permission, under which person this data is available. That kind of data should also be collected. In case where the subjects are not approached for consent because a social researcher has been granted access, say to administrative or medical grounds or other research material for a new or supplementary inquiry, the custodian's permission to use the records should not relieve the researcher from having to consider the likely reactions, sensitivities, and interests of the subjects concerned. So we can also collect the data if there is no accessibility of the subject to the researcher. In such cases, you can use the secondary sources. That means the records are the secondary sources. Also, misleading potential subjects. Misleading potential subjects, they will also mislead. In studies where the measurement objectives preclude the prior disclosure of material information to subjects, social researchers must weigh up the likely consequences of any proposed deception. To withhold material information from or to misinform subjects involves a deceit, whereby omission or commission, temporarily or permanently, such manipulations will face legitimate censure and must not be contemplated unless it can be justified. So you are not supposed to mislead the subjects. You are not supposed to deceive the subjects. So you have to be very prompt, credible, and what the truth that has to be informed about your research. You do not have this kind of misleading the potential subjects, and again it becomes like a legal issue if you mislead them. Then protect the interests of subjects. Neither consent from the subjects nor the legal requirement to participate absolves the social researchers from an obligation to protect the subject as far as possible against potentially harmful effects. If there are any harmful effects, you have to protect them. their interests need to be safeguarded. So enabling participation. So social research are responsible to ensure inclusion research projects of relevant individuals or groups who might otherwise be excluded for reasons of communication with regard to disability and other things. We can also leave them if they are not interested, not able to participate. Those disabled person or who are not able to cooperate, you can just leave them from your sample. Just ignore them. Just delete them. So maintaining confidentials of records. Yes, records should be maintained confidentials. Confidentially, the records have to be maintained. Preventing disclosure of identities. Preventing disclosure of identities. You are supposed not to disclose the identities. There may be danger for them. If they know that they have given the information related to particular society, the sarpanch of that may also object. They may also raise objections and they will also harm the subjects. So therefore, you are not supposed to disclose the identities of those individuals who participated in our research, who have given the information about that village. If the sarpanch or elder person of that village is not interested, that will also be harm to the subjects who participated in our research. The last one, standard protocols to be followed for ethical consideration. So these are the protocols. The first one is protocol means which are contained. There's a various elements that are included, which we will call them as protocol or standards of your research. For ethical purposes, you have to follow this particular format. Project title should be given, expected duration. Is it 3 years or 2 years? That kind of duration that you will complete and then submit the report. Such way, I think you have to mention the duration. Then identity of field researchers and organizational base. List of names, positions, qualifications and functions in the proposed research of all those holding responsible positions need to be mentioned. All those people who are going to involve in that project, Dr. B. Krishna Reddy, also DK or Usasi, and these are the various people who are involved in that research. You have to mention their names. If it is a coordinated effort, if this is a departmental, I think you find single person at times may not be there conducting such a project. If there are a group of people who are conducting that research, their names, their positions need to be given to the fundraiser or funding agencies. So these are the people who are going to involve in this particular. Suppose, and why are we giving this means? If I may leave this world, anything happen to my health, I may not conduct my research further, then the next person is responsible. For that purpose only, I think we have to give the names of those people, their positions. Also, we have to mention the qualifications, because when you are taking up a research, they will also judge whether this man is able to conduct this or not. For that purpose, your qualifications, your previous experiences in conducting research projects need to be mentioned in that particular research project, which should be presented before the funding agencies. Then the purpose of the study is to be mentioned, how the society is going to benefit, or how the government is going to benefit out of this particular research. That is to be specified in the project report. The sources of funding, the organization, individual or group funding, the finance for the study, what are the sources of funding, you have to mention. Scientific background, some rationale for conducting the study should be offered. If this investigation has been done previously, why repeat it? There should be reason for that. So if it is already exploited area, if we want to repeat, there should be some kind of rationality of conducting the same. Such a kind of scientific background for taking up this research or repeating the earlier researches should also be mentioned. Design of the study, all procedures, the methods, the samplings, all those things need to be specified. Potential benefits and hazards, what risk to the subject or entitled in involvement hazards. There should be some kind of traveling or some kind of the cooperation from the subjects at times. All these hazards should be and benefits need to be mentioned. That means what is the possible benefit or harm to the subjects or society from their participation. Is there any harm to the subjects from the society itself? If there is any such kind of things, you have to mention all those potential benefits and hazards also. Then recruitment procedures. So normally what we do is, if there is a project, we have to recruit the assistants. We have recruit the assistants. One single person may not conduct the research. He will not travel all the areas and collect the data. What we do is, we recruit the assistants, we train them, and then we put them in the field for that purpose. Then also, for that purpose, so there is a procedure. Everybody cannot be recruited. Who has experience in the research projects, who worked earlier in the research projects, such kind of people should only be recruited. So by recruiting such kind of assistants who will collect the data for you, I think there are certain procedures need to be followed for that. This information has to be given even to the funding agencies. Then informed consent. Consent should be taken where appropriate. Consent of participants need to be taken. Similarly, in oral or writing purposes, that way I think help you to get the data. And data protection. There should also be data protection procedures, and especially computer people knowing pretty well how to protect the data. And nowadays, you know pretty well what is happening with the report with regard to the computer. So I think there is so much of data that is used by some other people also, some other countries also. The data of our country will also be, of course, some people are trying their level best to deceive the data. Such kind of things would also be there. Then you ensure that your data is protected and it should be locked and nobody should be there. There should also be some password, isn't it? So confidentiality and anonymity.
ఎట్లా పోయిండా వాడు?
Mahendra Potulure, you are talking to somebody. Then monitoring of the research. The research, the progress of the research should be monitored. Organization procedures and how far the research work is completed, whether it is perfectly or not, conducting as per the procedure or not, that should be monitored. Should be available for inspection. And the dissemination of findings. So all the findings of your research project need to be disseminated to the concerned agencies, to the government, to the society, or to the authorities to whom the information has to be given. The results of your research should be given or disseminated to those agencies. And finally, you are responsible to the funding agencies. Your results should only be given to those people, not to anybody else. If they give permission, then only you have to disseminate that kind of findings to the other agencies. Without taking their permission, you are not supposed to share the information of your research project to anybody. That's all about these ethical principles to be followed for conducting research in psychology or in any social science researches. Now, finally, the last one is communicating psychological research. Communicating psychological research, APA guidelines. Communicating psychological research, how to communicate the psychological research, and what are the APA guidelines. American Psychological Association has given certain guidelines for communicating your psychological research. APA means American Psychological Association has prepared the guidelines, and those guidelines are issued to the people who are working in the area of psychological research, and those guidelines need to be followed very seriously. We are also following all those guidelines for our research only. We follow for our researches American Psychological Association guidelines. It may be psychology or it may be education also. Always we refer to the guidelines of APA, American Psychological Association. It has prepared certain guidelines for conducting research. Communicate means how to report.
Report.
Yes. For reporting of your research, there are certain guidelines. You cannot report it as you like, my dear friends. I was observing one of the researchers. You are not supposed to use your pen. You are not supposed to write all those things with a pen. That should be a typed matter. That should be typed on any one side of the page. And there should be of course, the sides of that page. You should use only A4 size. The upper, the bottom, the top, the bottom, the sides. There are certain measurements of space. You should use 1 inch that side or 1.5 that side, like this. Even the font size of yours is also fixed. Your text would be 12 font size. You're supposed to use Times New Roman style. These are the certain guidelines. What do you say, Usasri?
Sir, we need to follow the guidelines, sir, if that is given.
You have to.
Yes.
These are the guidelines. Otherwise, they cannot accept your research report also. If it
Nothing
goes
is
to the
said.
adjudicator, he will point out that adjudicator to whom it has gone, your research project has gone for adjudication. He will point out this is not as per the APA guidelines. The font size is something different. The spaces is not given. The space between the lines is not maintained properly. Grammatical mistakes, plagiarism, so on and so forth. All these things will be considered by the adjudicator. That nothing should be copied. If that is copied, you have to mention the citation from which it is copied. That is known as plagiarism. If the copying thing goes beyond 10%, you will be objected. You will not be allowed to submit your thesis. That is the university guidelines. If it crosses 10%, copying kind of thing.
Copying kind of thing.
Yes. If it is more than 10%, then again that will not be accepted. Then you have to rewrite your research project, and again that should be tested for plagiarism. How much information is copied, that will test. So all
But
this
research is all the thing where what is seen and observed and taken.
Whatever you
data
collected, what
collected.
you observed, whatever the data collected through various forms, various methods has to be reported. That is known as thesis. That is known as thesis, and that has to be submitted to the department if it's a PhD. Before submission, the plagiarism will be tested. Plagiarism will be tested. If it is more than 10%, that will be returned. You will be given a note. These are the areas wherein you have copied. It gives you from which you have taken. You cannot expect, Madam Ushasri Garu, from these checks. There are checkers. So such a kind of APA rules are there. So you can also sources of information. You can collect the data from the journals, also conference proceedings, books, and the reports, and also newspapers. You can also use thesis and dissertations, also internet. These are the various sources from which you can also collect the data. But all these things should not be copied as it is. You have to write it with your own words. Then only you can escape plagiarism. Hello, madam. Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
You can go through all these things. You collect the data.
There is a scientist who has used 4,000 words to.
There may be so many reports, So therefore, that kind of copying is plagiarism. Even you collect the information from various sources, but you have to put it in your own words in the report. If you copy it as it is, and don't forget that your thesis will be checked for plagiarism. Okay,
Yes.
And it is very easy for the adjudicator to understand this is copied from something. Isn't it? I think I got very recently one thesis from one university. I don't like to mention that thesis. Also the person. She has completely copied. Oh my God.
100%.
Not she, it is not written by her. Somebody has written that thesis. And that fellow is not from education department. The wording itself indicates. The wording, the language that is used by that fellow is not from the education department, but the thesis from the education department. She took the help of that fellow. She paid money to that fellow, and that fellow has written this thesis. And that wording, the language used by that fellow, is not, because it's easy for us education people. Normally, we follow certain procedure of language, the terms. Then I said, how should we go about that? How can we accept such kind of research? So these are all things are there. So therefore, I think you should also be very careful about all these things, my dear friends. So writing for the behavior and social sciences, and ethical reporting of research results, and data retention and sharing, whatever that is, API rules, according to the rules only you have to share. And again, my dear friends, you are not supposed to publish unless that is accepted, and then you have to take the permission from the university if you want to publish it also. If you don't publish that report, you cannot get any kind of recognition.
Yes.
If that is just shelved in the libraries, nobody will recognize you. Whatever that work that you have done, that should be published in the various journals. There are international journals, national journals for each subject. Then the work has to be published as per the norms of those journals. Okay, na?
Yes, sir.
So such kind of things should also be there. Then also you should not be done it piecemeal publication. Piecemeal. Some portion for one journal, another portion from one journal. I think that is not a good thing. Others are obligated to present work parsimoniously and as complete as possible within the space constraints of journal publication. So I think that should not be piecemeal kind of publication. The whole part of the research should be published. Reanalysis of published data. You can also reanalyze the published data. There may be times, especially, hello my dear friends, if anybody sees your article which is published in a journal, they will also go through that. Then why this particular article is published, which it doesn't have any value at all? They will also come to that kind of conclusion. So therefore, in those circumstances, you can also reanalyze of published data. Alerting the editor. Editor should also be alerted. Then also your plagiarism comes here. Plagiarism. Then copying, owning somebody's work. Self-plagiarism. If the work is done by you earlier, and the same should not be repeated here also. Isn't it? You should again, even though that is your contribution earlier, you have to again cite. So-and-so Dr. Krishna Reddy, so-and-so year, so-and-so journal, so-and-so article. Again, you have to mention that citation, even though that is yours, which was published for some other thing. And general writing and reminders. So while writing the report, while preparing the report, not once, it should be looked into number of times. Not once, twice, thrice, five, like that. The report that is prepared by you should be given to your friends who are very good in that area. And language experts should also be given. Because language expert, normally what we do is, if you are not expert in the language English, what normally we do is, we can give it to a fellow who is expert in English language. Language part only has to be checked by that gentleman. So I think as it is, that should not be published. And there should also be so many mistakes in that. So I think certain things are here highlighted. Instead of effect and affect, how to use these things. One is noun, the other one is verb. How to these things in our research. Normally what we do is, most of the people will use affect. To me, that is a negative kind of thing. It will affect. If you take this drug, it will affect your health. That's a negative kind of thing. If you take this drug, it will affect your health. That's a positive kind of thing. So while using all these things, languages, and then you should not use this prove also. Proofs, psychological, or very reluctant to use the word proofs in scientific writing. It suggests there is absolutely no doubt about the results of an experiment. Very few experiments in the history of psychology are completely beyond doubt. So therefore, my dear friends, you cannot say prove, it proves. No, that kind of word should not be there. Instead, you can say the results strongly suggest. Yeah. Then also your independent variables and also dependent variables should be very proper. People do not know what is independent variable, what is dependent variable at times. We have also seen such kind of reports, especially with the MAD dissertations. Those students, as part of their MAD program, they are supposed to submit a research. If they are not guided properly, they will also commit mistake. They do not know which is independent variable and which is dependent variable. There lies the knowledge with regard to research. Then avoid sentences of fragments. Broken sentences would not be there. Use semicolons properly. Correct verb. Then avoid using first person. You are not supposed to report in first person. I or we. The researcher, the investigator. Like this only you have to use. You cannot say Dr. Krishna Reddy. In the sense, I, Dr. Krishna Reddy, I am, you are, we are. Such kind of wording should not be there. Third person should only be used. The investigator, the researcher, the inquirer. Such kind of wording should be there. Therefore, you are not supposed to use I or we. Then APA guidance for writing the research. How to write the research? Here they have given this. Just now I have also mentioned the space between the typing, the font size also I have mentioned, and also the citations are also mentioned. Also the format in the sense, the size of your typing. A4 size should also be used. Then the top or bottom and the spaces should also be used. Then also other things need to be taken care of. So therefore your title page should be section font or 18 font. And then your text would be 12 fonts. Then also I mentioned you Times New Roman. Nowadays people are using that. So such kind of things should also be followed because these are all APA guidelines. And again, describe past research related topic. You can also describe the past research if that is related to that. You can also describe how that is related to your topic. And you should also mention the citation of that research. Describe your experiment in that format. This is the format. I'm talking about the format of reporting. So introduce the general topic. That is 1 in 2 paragraphs. Number 2 is to describe the past research, which we can call it as review of related literature. Then also the third one is the methodology, where you are using the different methods for your research. Then also in that you mention the methods and also information that is necessary and which is not necessary also make a mention. Writing the results section, you have to mention the results. Then also discussion, you have to discuss those results. Then also citing previous work. This have been quite emphasizing for number of times. You have to cite if it is copied or if it is used by you, you have to cite from which it is taken. So then revising your manuscript. So on the basis of the sessions of your senior researchers, if it is given to them, if there are any suggestions coming from them, also any suggestions from your guide or any suggestions from your colleagues or any suggestions from the language expert, on the basis of their suggestions, you are supposed to revise. And again, my dear friends, what normally is happening, is if the adjudicator is not happy with this, he will return that topic saying that this has to be revised. He will mention the different issues where the revision is required or modifications are required. That will be returned to that university, and then that will be referred to the candidate. The candidate and the guide both sit together. What of the remarks that are made by the adjudicators need to be followed and resubmitted. Then finally, points allocation. If there are 100 points of that research report, then that point allocation or mentioned here, allocation of guidelines APA format. APA format you have to use for research reporting. And in that, they have given the points. Introduction, 22 points. Almost it will take 1/4. Then that introduction again is divided into different parts. Background development, 4 points. Experiment, 4 points. Hypothesis, 4 points. Then also organization, coherence, and overall quality of section, 10 points. All these things should come in your introduction chapter, which is given 22 points. 22 points weightage is given to that introduction part. The second
Interaction
one,
point.
yes, the second one is method, which is meant for 24 points. Out of 100 points, I'm talking about APA rules for 100 points for each chapter or each kind of, element. Here they have given the weightages in terms of the points. The second one is method, 24 points, which includes participants, apparatus means different methods or different materials that are used, and also design. Also sampling and selection procedures, type of design and number of experimental groups, experimental and the control groups, complete delineation of all steps. All these things put together, there are 24 points, which will come under methodology. Then the third one is results, meant for 15 points. 15 points. This particular section is given 15 points. Under that, what are the type of statistics used, completeness, measures used, then also figures and tables, also independent variables and dependent variables in title, use of Arabic, not Roman numerals, labeling, figures, x-axis, y-axis, curves, different designations for each labeling table, etc. All these things put together under results, 15 points are allocated. Then the final one is discussion. All the results have to be discussed because you have to give the reasons for your results. Why is it like this? That we can call it as interpretation. Then, which includes discussion of hypothesis, interpretation of results, coordination with the background, organization, coherence, and overall, which comes to 23 points. This is very, very important, this discussion part, for which 23 points are allocated. Then finally, supplementaries, all the supplementaries. Supplementaries means the references or the bibliography, your abstract, which will come in 120 words, which will be just before the text. That means the second one, your title page. Later, after the title page, you may see the abstract in 120 words. That is like a summary of the whole work. Then also title page, title, author, institution, effective of title, centering. So the fifth one is with regard to supplementaries, all these supplementaries which contains or which is given the weight of 16 points, and all these 5 chapters of the 5 areas put together, the weightage of 100 points as per APA rules. I think such kind of weightage is given to different parts or sections of your reporting based on APA rules. This is all about this. And my dear friends, and I'm quite happy. I think almost I have completed all those units from 1 to 22,
Yes.
some of them in offline classes and most of them in online classes. Although there is a distance between you, physical presence is the distance that is between us. Even then, I tried my level best to reach you all and to justify my role as counselor for this particular paper. And if there anything that you want to share with me, you are most welcome. They're about 15 minutes away from this. Before that, if there are any doubts from your side, and some of our friends was asking me to tell the important points, and each and every point is very, very important, my dear friends. Each chapter, from each chapter, the examination test paper has to be considered. The examiner will prepare the test paper by looking into all the 22 units. That is the norm. He is not supposed to leave any unit. So there would be some short answers. There would be essay answer kind of things. Nothing should be left out. As far as possible, all the questions should spread out to 22 units. And most important chapters are, everything is important. I cannot say, normally we cannot talk about which is important, which is not important. And every point, single point, which is included for the syllabus is very, very important. So therefore, out of the interest, because you have to focus on what issues you have to focus, I may just mention only the units. If you go through the units of this, then of course the first block or the unit number 1, scientific method. So here you may get types of research. That's very important. Types of research. There are different types of research. That is important one. You have to focus on this. Then also the concept and types of hypothesis. There would be a short question completely on hypothesis. What is hypothesis? What are the various hypotheses? Then also experimental designs. Then you are going to get essay question on experimental designs. Experimental designs, in that you have seen pre-experimental designs, true experimental designs, quasi-experimental designs, and then the last one, I think, what is that one? I don't know. Non-experimental designs. So you have to focus on one would be either it would be from the experimental design or it would be from quasi-experimental design.
Non-experimental.
Quasi-experimental. That's important. Experimental and quasi-experimental. There may be one essay question which you may be getting. Then sampling, you are getting short answers. You are quite, as a researcher, you are supposed to have thorough knowledge all those sampling techniques, and you are going to get short answers on sampling procedures or sampling techniques. Okay, na? In that they may also ask what are the non-probability sampling techniques. You discuss them with examples also. Like that, there would be a question. But if it is short answer, what are the non-probability sampling techniques? You just explain them. Like that, short answer would come. Then data collection methods. What are the various data collection methods? There will be one essay question from this, and most probably that may be from questionnaire or interview. Because major portion is allocated for the discussion. What is questionnaire? Various questionnaires, and then how to collect the data using questionnaires. Also interview. So these are the two methods. So much of discussion was held and so much of information also given. Out of these things, you may be getting one essay question. It may be a questionnaire or it may be on interview. How are you going to use this for your data collection? These two methods. Then also techniques of multivariate analysis. Techniques of multivariate analysis, it may come as short answer type, which I have discussed yesterday, and also techniques of qualitative analysis. And yesterday also, I think I have mentioned that qualitative research is normally very limited in psychology. In psychology, I think I have also mentioned this, very limited studies are available. They don't touch this qualitative research. In psychology, most of them would be experimental studies or some kind of survey studies. So therefore, they may also ask you the ethics in psychological research and also APA guidelines. So you have to focus on ethics in psychological research as short answer and APA guidelines as your short answer. These are the focus areas. That doesn't mean you should leave all other units. No. You have to focus on these things. Focus on this detailed, that means in-depth study. You have to prepare notes of your own on these focused areas. That should be in-depth one. And you have to study each and every component that is included in all the units. And finally, what is that I have to do is, you have to tell me, my dear friends, there are about 30 minutes to leave this. Anything that you want to share with us, you are most welcome. And again, my dear friends, I think this is as good as classroom instruction. Although this is online class, I think nobody will talk in detail. And my duty normally is, if there are any questions from your side, I have to answer those questions. That much only. Counselor duty is, if there's any interaction, there the interaction, my role is required. But what I did is, it is more than what I did in normal classrooms, although this is online or offline. Then now you can share, my dear friends, anything that is from your side. Gopi Krishna Garu, today is the last session. It seems you joined it today only.
Yes, sir.
And I was actually trying to see you on the screen earlier also, but today only I saw you. Anything?
Actually, sir, I am not in India. I'm in America. So the timings are entirely different.
Oh, exactly.
So now the time is 12:33.
Sure. Now you are in America.
Night. Yeah.
That shows your eyes
That-
are like that. Your face indicates that there's night, Oh.
That's why I'm not able to attend the classes sometimes.
It appears, it seems there is no proper sleep. Actually, this is the sleeping time for you,
Yeah.
So your eyes, that indicates this night you are supposed to go sleep,
Actually, this is your first class, sir. Here,
Yeah, I know.
now another 3 classes are to go. I don't know whether we will be able to attend.
No, only this. No, another. This is the last class only.
No, sir. It's talking about other 3 subjects.
Huh?
Like OB,
Other three
counseling
subjects.
and personality.
Next subjects.
Now, for me only, this is my
next.
last session.
Yeah,
Yes,
yours
sir.
is last session. I know it, sir.
Mine is the last
Other
session
cla-
only. Huh?
Sir, officially,
Yeah.
yes, sir. Officially, sir.
Other counseling, personality.
Hello, madam.
These classes are yet to go.
Officially also. Otherwise, this is the last session for me.
Yeah. That is.
Officially last session, sir.
Man, you did not the offline classes, and I want to, of course, for your sake, how to teach all those things you missed out.
Sir, I just wanted to know the important stages in the first 18 months, how we have to write. So I was just going through the first initial chapters. So if you can.
You are not there in the initial chapters, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Online students, they are lucky, sir. It will be streamlined later on. Offline for us, it is like we are.
Then, okay, it's all right, Ushasri. I hope that you will also, of course, come up to the expectations. You can have self-study. And if there are any doubts, you can also approach me. But there would not be any class like this.
Okay, sir.
Like this, there would not be any class. Personally, you are most welcome. If there are any doubts from your side, I think already I have given my number also. I don't mind even you disturb me at any time unless I am free. If I am free, then only I will respond if I am in the class, because I will also be attending certain classes of certain institutions.
Yes, sir.
Actually, we thank you very much, sir, for the very wonderful teachings and lectures you have given.
Yes.
We are very much enlightened. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I attended all the offline classes actually.
Yes, certainly. I have seen you also. I have also seen you.
Madam, I will contact you any doubts on the offline first initially before disturbing, sir.
Sure.
Your name, ma'am?
I am Ramsita.
Ramsita, okay. Okay.
Yeah, even we all can coordinate. Like I need help from Usha Shri and today I think Deena is not there. Even she was very attentive in the class.
Actually, we can form a little revision group where we can prepare for the examination. So all are really let's join.
Interested, they can join. Yeah.
Even exam and like second year is I find it very interesting. So especially thank you so much, sir. Like you have made this subject too interesting.
Yes.
Interesting?
Yes, sir. If it is only reading out this subject like stats, everything, if we see this book, we will definitely would have run away. But you made this subject really
because this subject is more theoretical, sir. More theoretical, and many things are there to learn and to remember.
And sir's involvement in the subject and his sincerity clearly shows.
Yes. It seems sir left.
No.
It seems.
He left.
We're not able to see.
Yeah, maybe his window is not shown here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, window is not showing. Probably he left, maybe.
So who is taking the lead to form a group for revision?
You only take, no?
I don't have the numbers. I really, I don't have the numbers.
No, you can send the invite in our group. Whoever are interested, they will join maybe.
I did last time. I literally at a flop.
No, we can make a group and just message. If anyone is free, we'll reply.
Yeah.
On call is quite difficult. So whenever we are free, we can message and update each other.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Sir, yeah.
You are not talking to me. You are talking to somebody else.
No, sir,
That
you
should be
have
between
not
me and
seen.
yourself, not yourself. You can also talk later. If you have anything from your side, Ushasri, then you tell us.
Yes, sir. Sir, how to identify the problem, sir?
It's only about experiences. Go through the literature. Also contact the guide. You contact the guide, contact your colleagues, also your own experiences, and also an interaction with the people. Then you can only come up with a problem. Okay, na?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Literature is also there, madam. You go to the literature. There are already studies are conducted. You find a lot of literature. And from that also, you can also identify the problems. Or otherwise,
Yeah.
you can go to the people, also interact with them if there are any psychological problems and make it a problem of your research.
Then
Okay.
how to select the problem to do the research, sir? How we can actually select a problem or issue? We can identify that we are good.
I
This
think already I think we have discussed these things in the offline
Yes, yes,
classes,
yes.
how to select a problem.
That's the
How
beginning
to title it,
chapters only we
how to
discussed.
title it. That should not be very lengthy. And that should be very smart, very specific.
And
Influence of
achievable.
so-and-so variables on the anxiety of the secondary school students.
yes,
Then self-esteem of the students in relation to the achievement.
Oh,
Self-confidence and the achievement of the students. Then adjustments of the students and their achievement. There may be aggression. There may be anger. These are the various areas that you can focus on. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
yes,
And
yes.
especially you can also take up those children who are sitting before the computers who are having so much of aggressive behavior. Have you
Oh,
ever touched your friends who are sitting before the computers and playing games? If you touch them, they will react in a bigger way. So aggressively also they will react. That is the effect
agree.
of this technology, social media on their behavior. So such kind of topics you can also take up. Okay, now?
Yes, yes, sir.
Then other things, any friends from your side? Dr. Nageswara Saab is there? Dr. Nageswara sir. Is he there?
he is not seen, sir.
Arre,
And
arre,
I
arre.
think he
Yeah.
he
Anyway,
Actually, today on the if we log into the video online classes, that is not showing any kind of classes. So probably he must have thought there is no class.
no class?
He must have thought because when we are logging in through the online, like where we
Okay.
get our site, that there is no display of the class sessions. So the one who has stored the link and they are just directly joining. The one who doesn't know.
But your number is very less. Only after 11 members are there, including myself.
So,
What
but
is
it
friends?
is streaming online. So this
It
one
may be,
while
but
so
always what I expect is, if I'm teacher, I expect 100 students in the classroom. Because that's my nature. If there are very less number of students attending, I will lose my interest also. If you don't
Yeah.
react to my lesson, also I will lose my interest. Always there should be very interactive kind of sessions.
yes,
I always welcome such kind of interactions so that
Yeah.
you can strengthen your own base and you need not go again into the literature of the module. If there is a discussion or interaction on any particular issue, I think you need not pay that much attention on those issues later.
yes, sir.
That's how I expect. And moreover, you are all, experienced people. You have life experiences, am I right? And
Yes.
mature brains. You have life experiences, mature brains, and everything. You can also interact, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I think I'm quite happy with all these sessions and the response that I got from all of you. And of course, what the teacher always expects is the response. If there is no response,
Yes.
very dull, very passive, I may lose the interest. That's the problem.
And we appreciate, sir, your involvement and commitment clearly shows.
Yes.
You are so much involved while teaching.
Yes,
That appeals.
100%. 100%.
Yes. Yes, yes.
I think I'm using so much of energy also, Ushasri Garu. I
Yes,
think
sir.
that energy you cannot give me us in terms of money and other things, remunerations.
Yes,
Huh?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Your energy
True, true.
brings energy to the class also, sir.
Mm.
It's like
Because
contagious.
I want to bring that kind of activeness in the classroom.
It's
Alertness,
contagious.
alertness, active.
Yes.
Something we have.
If I'm passive, if I speak 1 or 2 words for every 20 minutes, that means that is a passive. And the words should
Yeah.
flow, should flow like a river.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
And you should also find it very difficult to catch me also.
Mm.
You have to, of course, rush unless you put your brain, your body, mind, and soul on this. Then only you catch up. Otherwise, you cannot catch up. Because I would
Yeah.
be leaving all these words in such a pace. Anyway, I think I have reduced my pace of language also
Okay.
for better clarity purposes. Okay, na?
Mm.
అర్థముగా అని చదువు వ్యర్థమే కదా. అందుకని నేను చెప్పేది
Wonderful, sir.
నా కోసం చెప్తే ఏమి లాభము, మీకోసం కదా నేను చెప్తున్నాను.
Yes, yes.
ఏం ఫ్రెండ్స్?
Yes,
Anతే,
Other
sir.
people are not coming onto the screen, only GK Saab and also only Ushasri and also Rama something.
Ramasita, sir.
Ramasita only, and
Ramasita.
these 3 people. Only these 3 people on the screen. Other
We are
people are
confident.
not here. Huh?
We are confident people, sir.
But I want
Sir,
to see you
actually
all.
at home, no. So sometimes I need to off my video in between.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right. So many practical issues, sir.
I know.
Yes, sir,
For your
that is the
information,
reason.
I'm telling you, when I was, giving this kind of lectures for the student of MEd, especially on philosophical issues, parents used to sit along with their
Children.
daughters.
Oh.
Because I associate with Andhra Mahila Sabha, and the paper that I was discussing on online was philosophy, which we talk about all those things,
Yes,
Huh?
sir.
So I think the parents used to sit along with their daughters, and they brought this to my notice. Wow, what a wonderful thing, huh?
But really it is great.
Because that
I think because
philosophy
that's
is a loving
interesting one,
knowledge, sir. So everybody
Interesting.
should love that.
Philosophy is a paper because they are interested also certain issues, isn't it? All this soul,
Yeah.
the spirit, isn't it? All those
Yeah.
things we talk about, ethics
Actually,
and
the very
things.
meaning is philosophia, loving knowledge.
Yes, love, wisdom and other things. This is all about for
Yes.
this. And before I say goodbye, thank you very much, all of you, for responding very positively to my classes. And if there are any doubts from your side, you are most welcome at any time. And if I am free, certainly I will respond to your questions or interactions. That's all about my friends.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Yes.
you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I take leave
Thank you.
from you. This is Dr. B. Krishna Reddy signing off.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
sir. Thank you.
It's all about this for this call.
నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్ జాయిన్ అవుతున్నారా?
Join అవ్వాలి.
ఎందుకంటే ఆల్రెడీ మనం వీఆర్ లేట్ ఫర్ 2 minutes.
That's what. Yeah.
నేను ట్రై
Let's
చేస్తా.
break now. Okay, friends. See you in the next class.
Okay.